Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to the show. It's Monday. That was my least favorite spot in Atlanta. There's no flow in that spot, and I don't know. I just hate that spot. I really do. It's like everybody's favorite spot, and it's the spot that like somehow can't get burned. Like it never gets burned. But I just hate it. Every time I fly there, I don't have a great time. This is a cool moment, though. Hold on. This is a cool little let it hang inverted moment. You fucker. There you go. Oh, god damn you. Here you go. I love this so much. Ready? Yep. Yeah. That right there you can't do with a tiny whoop, I will admit. You can emulate that, but you got to be quick to do that. Yikes. Hold on. Shit, of course I left this off. There we go. There it goes. Whatever. App is acting weird. Hold on. I forgot 2 things tonight. God damn it. Alright, now we're good. Welcome, friends. Cloudhopper was in the chat first. BLD0550, Adam Weston, Curtis Hayes, Siskel FPV. Sleepy CBR, Cole Powers, Frank Nicholas, Slow Cal, Tom Johnson, Danzilla the Terrible, Curtis Hayes, Rocket Tech, Beak, FPV, P. Richard Scott's in the house. What's up, homie? Walter, Scotty Scott, Northern Tier, Danzilla again, Focus for Life, as in like Ford Focus? If so, right fucking on, my friend. Sebi D, BLD again, County FPV, Bob Bruce, Walter, Doubles FPV, Low Roll and Groove, Curtis Hayes. What's up, friends? Thanks for coming. So the last couple of live streams, it looked like I finally killed one of these 35 amp 30x30 old ass Aikon ESCs. After the dog pissed all over the floor yesterday and I had to end the live stream early, I did all the work to swap in the last new Aikon 35 amp that I have. And when I was soldering the last set of motor leads back onto the ESC, which was motor 3, which is the one that we were having the problem with. It was twitching, right? Just like a bad ESC does. One of the wires just fell off the race wire LED. Just fell off of it. The individual strands of wire had broken inside of the silicone. Like a 1/4 of an inch inside the silicone. And so all that work was for fucking nothing. In theory. I'm pretty sure. Because I didn't, like, pull hard on it. So the Aikon ESC that I pulled out of there is now in a bag that says, probably fine, but channel 3 might be blown up. I'm pretty sure it's fine. Because there were no, like, huge... Yeah, it's fine. So, visual inspections of your wires is not enough. I don't know how to prevent this in the future, which is all that matters. Like, you know, you're going to make mistakes. You can either cop to them, own them, and learn from them, or you can let your ego, you know, make up excuses and shit. You're never going to be able to do all one or the other, but, you know, you should shift towards owning that shit and learning something as much as possible. And in an effort to learn something here, I don't know where to go with this. Like, on one hand, because look, in order to have found this, I would have had to basically pull on all the wires, and that would have done it. If I'd you know, so you do the visual inspection, right? Look for, all right, so you've got your solder ball, and then you've got the silicone sleeving on the wire. If you butt the silicone sleeving right up against the ESC, that's the strongest way to do it, because then when this wire has to bend, when the wire has to bend, it's going to bend with the silicone, and that's going to relieve a lot of stress on the individual strands of wire. Fucking A. I'm over this shit. Well, I'm unfortunately not over it. I'm mentally over it. What you don't want is the silicone sleeving to be back a bunch, because then the weak point is going to be those exposed strands of wire, and it's going to bend there, and it's going to break each one of those one by one, and then it's going to let go. What's really funny is that in this case, I had not gotten the silicone all the way up against the PDB. PCB, rather. And yet, the strands of wire still broke inside of the silicone. So, as much as I want to say, you do the visual inspection, and then you grab each wire and you give it a little tug, that fatigues the wires doing that, right? Like when we first solder stuff up, when you solder stuff up fresh, it's fine. Give the wires a little tug, make sure there's not a cold solder joint, and stop. I guess that is the solution. Because you're not going to be doing it often. So that has to be the caveat here, is that you do your visual inspection. If something's acting up like that, you do the visual, you swap the motor, right? We talked about that. If you didn't catch the live stream, if you've got a motor that's twitching, don't automatically blame the ESC. It's probably the ESC. But it's way more work to swap the entire ESC out, right? Swapping the ESC is like the most miserable thing to do. You got to swap the battery leads out. You're going to have shit double or triple, or in this case, quadruple soldered to the battery pads. And then, you've got the 12 motor wires on there. You've got the plug header going to the flight controller, which, if you're not swapping in an identical ESC, you're gonna have to repin or replace, right? It sucks balls. Like, replacing an ESC. Like, when I bet you this rig went on the wall and I stopped flying it. No, I just stopped flying. Never mind. I was about to say I bet you it went on there because the ESC died and I just didn't have it in me to replace the damn thing. But that's not true, because it flew at Patrick's. Yeah, this must have happened at Patrick's. I don't. It's weird. I don't remember it failing there, but then at Rampage, it was twitching. It's very, very weird. Maybe it. Yeah, I don't know, but shit. What was I forget what I was saying. But yeah. Oh, yeah. So, always replace the motor first. Either replace the motor or swap two of the motors, and make sure that the twitching behavior doesn't follow the motor. If it follows the motor, then the motor's the problem, right? So we did that, and it stayed on that corner, right? So this isn't something that's going to happen often, right? So I think the proper troubleshooting workflow should have been to check the leads first. I think the first thing I should have done is grab so that this most of my rigs have race wire LEDs. I love them. They're fantastic. At least use regular race wires. They're great. Pain in the ass to install, but then forever after that, they're awesome. So I think the first troubleshooting step should be to grab each one of these leads and give it a tug. Tug it 1, 2, 3 at the ESC, 1, 2, 3 at the race wire LED, 1, 2, 3 at the other side of the race wire LED. Yeah, that would have found this problem. You're not yanking on them. You're giving them a firm little pull, which should be enough. This is tough though, man. I mean, because like thinking about this, right? I've never had this in over 8 years of doing this. I've never had the wires break inside of the silicone like this. So on one hand, it's super rare, and you might not ever have it happen to you, hopefully. What's going on in there, though, right, is that each individual strand of wire had broken. So that motor was running essentially on one single strand of wire. Well, it wasn't running on one strand of wire. Maybe when it was running at Patrick's, it had 2 or 3. Um, um, so, yeah, this is a tough one, man. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. This possibly shows a weak point with race wires and race wire LEDs, because you put them on and then you leave them on, and you break motors and you break arms, and they stay on there. And this little piece of wire between the ESC and the race wire takes a beating. So on one hand, the safest possible thing to do is that every single time you have to change a motor, because how the hell do you keep track of it otherwise? You really wouldn't need to do this every time, but the only real way to keep track of it, other than like having a notebook, which, like, come on, we're fucking nerdy enough standing around in parking lots with goggles on our heads. Do you really also want to have a notebook that you write stuff down in? I just offended someone horribly that has a notebook that they write stuff in. If you do, good for you. I don't have that in me. But man, is that a great idea? So if you're a degenerate like me, and you can't possibly be bothered to write anything down ever, every single time you replace a motor on the arm, you need to also replace the leads between the race wire and the ESC to be safe, right? Without race wires or without race wire LEDs, that's what happens. Every time you replace a motor, you replace the wires all the way up to the ESC. It is so much quicker and easier to replace motors from here. And I'll tell you what, I'm not gonna change the way that I do anything right now, because I think this is just a total fluke. But that's the wrong. I shouldn't. You know, I got lucky because it's a freestyle rig, so it's gonna have the hell beaten out of it, and you should never trust your freestyle rig that you've beaten the hell out of in like an unrecoverable or a sketchy, like, flying around people situation. So that prevents something like this from, biting me in the ass and hurting someone, right? You know what I mean? See what I'm saying? It's a tough one. If this happens again, if this happens 2 more times, I might stop running the race wire LEDs. And that way, every single time I replace a motor, I replace the full-length wires all the way up to the ESC. I doubt this will ever happen to me again, though, because I've been running race wire LEDs for thousands and thousands and thousands of batteries, and I've never had this happen. And I'm probably never going to fly another 1,000 batteries 5-inch freestyle, just ever. It's just not I just don't do it nearly that much. You know, like I probably won't fly 105-inch freestyle batteries a year ever again. And so, yeah, I'll probably never have the numbers pile up enough for this to happen again. But I wanted to talk about it in case you're ever going hard on 5-inch freestyle, because yeah, you replace a lot of stuff, and the amount of like abuse and punishment that these rigs suffer when you crash them at 6 or 7 or 800 grams at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour is just absurd. And so if you're going to go down that road, you got to think about this stuff. But again, super, super, super rare. I've never had this happen before. I've had wires break on many, many, many occasions, but they always break in the gap between the solder blob and the silicone. Ever since I started butting the silicone up against the PCB, that problem stopped. But this is a new problem and it almost leads us down a path of like, should we do that? I think so, because like having the wire, doing that, and then having the wires last so much longer, yeah, you're gonna have the failure happen a lot less often, and that's what we want. We want to reduce the frequency of the failures, right? Like, you're not going to catch it every single time. You're not going to do visual inspections of your shit often enough to catch it, and you might like catch it once, but you're not going to catch it. It's just going to fail, and then it's going to be like, oh, I can see the failure. Fine. It's a better bet to build them in a way that it doesn't fail as often, right? And then it's eventually going to fail, and it's going to be harder to find it. You know, in this case, right, I would have found it, but I would have found it out of order, right? Like, it's all I have to do is plug it. We're going to do it tonight to get the ultimate satisfaction of having this rig back up in the air. But if that wire had held on with the one single strand doing the you know what? It actually didn't have, if it was twitching like that, that one strand had broken. And it was sitting like this, and it was arcing across, and the arcing was how it was getting that that twitch. There's probably more than just that one that were arcing across like that, but I don't know where I was going with that. Fucking A. Oh yeah, I would have found it. So I would have hooked it all back up with the fresh ESC, and it would have been all twitchy if I'd been like super gentle and I hadn't pulled on that wire at all, right? And it had stayed like that. That motor would have still been the problem. So I would have ruled out the motor, because I put a fresh motor on it, and I would have ruled out the ESC. I would have put a fresh ESC on it, and then I would have just looked at it and been like, okay, it's either the race wire LED or one of these wires. And hopefully I would have thought, oh, let's check the wires. And I would have pulled on the wires, and that one wire would have just fallen right out. So yeah. Interesting failure that I have not had happen before in a million, billion, quadrillion batteries. Here it is, actually. I still have the little piece of silicone wire. See if I can show you this. No, it'll be better to put it against this. So yeah, you see how the silicone, like it was in there. Look how deep in it was. And there was that little, see that little chunk of silicone that's taken out? That's kind of interesting, right? And you can kind of see it up in there. Hold on, what if I do this? Well, yeah, you get the picture. It was up in there. And that's creepy. I'll be honest. I'm very creeped out by that. That the wires broke inside of the silicone. But again, this is a freestyle rig. If you've got a build that you're flying around people, cinematic build, you should not be smashing the shit out of it, right? And like not smashing a rig is going to prevent stuff like this from happening. This doesn't happen from regular wear and tear. This happens from absolute and utter abuse. This doesn't happen from vibrations. This happens from arms breaking, right? When the arm breaks, it pulls those motor wires. Or this happens from prop strikes. This is, well, no, yeah, this is where the prop strikes would happen. Yeah, that happened from a prop strike, I'll bet. I bet that's why there's that little chunk taken out of the silicone. So maybe when there's evidence of a prop strike, when you start to get, when the silicone on the wires get that little flap situation, you know what I mean? That wire needs to get replaced. Maybe that's the solution here. Maybe that's the deal. Because then you're just replacing one wire, right? No big deal. You desolder it from one side, you desolder it from the other side, you pull it straight, you grab another little piece of motor wire, you cut it to the same length, you strip it, you tin it, you replace it. Done. Yeah, especially on this side of the race wire, right? Because this is where the prop strikes happen. The propeller blade is here, it bends down, it whacks over here. Somehow the motor wires sometimes get all boogered up here. I think that's just from like rocks or something. I've never really understood how that's happened, but I'll usually just E6000 over it and keep going. But yeah, maybe that's the deal. When you see those wires from the race wire to the ESC start to get banged up, just replace them. Don't wait for something like this to happen. You know, this is like 3 hours wasted, right? Like this is a big ass chunk of time that I do not have, just completely wasted, and that really bothers me. So I'm really kind of racking my brain to kind of figure out how to not let this happen again, and that's what you guys are here for, right? To learn and for us to kind of figure this shit out together. How do we troubleshoot these things better? What is the absolute best possible order of operations to troubleshoot these goddamn things? Because they're gonna break. They're all gonna break, always, forever. The troubleshooting process is a nightmare. It is a total nightmare on these things, and it's why a lot of people quit, and that sucks. So if we can, really nail down over years and years and years and years of flying, crashing, breaking, repeating, fly, crash, repair, repeat. Yeah, we can take the sting out of that, hopefully. So there you go. There's I wanted to first and foremost talk about that. That's like the main thing that this live stream is sort of about, and we already got it done. Look at us. It only took me a half an hour to tell you that a wire broke. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, type CiottiFPV. Otherwise, I won't read your comment. I respect your privacy. If you want to support me on the crazy adventure that is doing FPV full-time, it's insane. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com. Patreon helps me out the most. You can join for as little as 10 cents a day. That is nothing in the grand scheme of FPV. And I guarantee you that you will save more money than you pay in your Patreon membership from learning all kinds of stuff. You're going to get a Patreon-only YouTube playlist, access to. There's 2 Facebook groups that I don't really monitor much, if at all, because Facebook has wronged me too many times. You're going to get full access to our Discord where all these beautiful people in the chat hang out. And there's a whole bunch of technical articles over on the actual Patreon page itself. Just use the tags in the top left corner. And there's all different tags for different things. Tech Talk is the tag that'll show you all the technical articles that either I've written or I've stolen from other people. But there's some good stuff in there. You'll dig it. You can also use my affiliate links if you're not using somebody else's. You should be using affiliate links on every order you do on the internet, though. It's free money, and if you watch people on YouTube, support them, and they'll make better stuff, literally. The more money they have, the more stuff they can test, the better they can set up their studio, so they don't look like such a donkey. So yeah, use someone's affiliate links. If you use bookmarks, replace your bookmarks with affiliate links. If you just type directly into the URL bar, remove your current suggestions and then hit the person's affiliate link a bunch of times. And then when you start typing Amazon, it'll think that you want to go to that person's affiliate link. And you'll never have to remember to actually go to their website and click the actual affiliate link anymore. You'll just do your thing, and every single time you go to Amazon, it'll take you to the nut grabber, and that's my affiliate link, and away you'll go. It's free money, man. It doesn't affect you in any way. You can still use coupon code. You can still do everything. There's no reason not to use affiliate links. Every time you forget, a baby kitten dies, as opposed to an adult kitten, I guess. There's a Fiverr page where you can work one-on-one with me. You can just message me. If you want to, learn like 6 months of FPV content in a half an hour, that's how you do it. All the info is on these live streams, but it's going to take you eons to find all of it. So hire me. It'll help me keep doing this. And we'll talk for a half an hour. You hit me with every single question you could possibly imagine, and I'll give you correct, actual, factually based, not burn your house down because some asshole on Facebook that doesn't know shit about shit wants to think that he knows shit about shit and gives answers to everything that are completely wrong information. I can help you fly better in the simulator. I can also help you plan your build out so that your build matches with your flight style, where you fly, how you crash, all the good stuff. This way, like kind of the point of custom building and sort of the only reason to custom build is that you put the right motors on, you put it in the right frame, you put the right electronics in that are specifically for you. Otherwise, just buy a bind and fly. They're cheaper. And you'll save all the labor. You'll save, 10 hours of labor on the initial build. So yeah, if you're going to do a custom build, know that the ESC that you're putting into it's not going to catch on fire. Know that the perfect motors that you're putting on it for your style and all that jazz. So yeah, makes a big difference. And I'd love to help you with that. There's an Etsy store. There's a Teespring store, which also have some fun stuff that you can buy, like this shirt, to support the insanity and to have cool FPV gear. You guys are the best. Thank you for allowing me to literally do this full time. There would be absolutely no way for me to do this without each and every one of you hanging out, supporting me, all the good stuff. So thank you for that. It means a lot. It's been a hell of a ride, and I hope that I can keep it going sort of forever. Curtis Hayes says, from when CiottiFPV was chewing on that whoop the other day. That was fun. Walter says, put some silly putty on there. When you... What? I don't know what that means, Walter. I also don't know what you mean by put some silly putty on there. Put silly putty on where? CMYK is in the house. What's up, homie? Curtis Hayes says, nerds rule. Oh, here we go. Rocket Tech points to himself and says, has a notebook. Also, Curtis Hayes says, oh, I have a notebook. Good for you guys. I wish I had that in me. I have a... Stars and Stripes jacket says something, yeah. As a Part 107 pilot, all your quads should have a maintenance log. That's true. That's true. Yeah, not a single person does, though. I'm sure of it. But look, In your phone, notes. Make a note. I have a note somewhere. It's really far down, but there is a note somewhere in here for FPV shit. Oh, there's my note for the drone safety meetings that I do on set. I haven't looked at that in a while. I just have sort of memorized it. I don't really say a lot to people. There it is. Quads testing. I haven't. There's probably really good stuff in here. There is really good stuff in here. Fly the camera and the subject. Fly big and small. Fly fast and slow. Be inverted. Pitch forward a lot. Coordinate for gimbal mode. I don't know what that means. Fly smooth. Show the location with the tricks, not the other way around. Fly the tricks with the location? I guess that makes sense. Have fun. Yeah, there's some good stuff in here. Look at me. That's about it. I mean, there's tons of good stuff in here. Jesus, there's tons of stuff in here. Yeah, you always have your phone on you. You'll never remember to bring a notebook, but you'll always have your phone on you. And Notes is awesome. Notes will also sync if you're on an Apple desktop with your desktop, which is really, really nice. Especially for like Instagram tags, like a big set of like hashtags or at tags. You can type it all out on the keyboard or copy and paste it from other people's videos and shit, and then like make it in the note, and then it's in your phone. So when you post on Instagram, you can just go into Notes in your phone, select the big chunk, and just dump it in. Curtis Hayes says, one of the few FPV creators that lets us hear all of his internal dialogue. #learning. Yeah, man. Long form content, my friends. It's the way of the future. It's not the way of the future. It's dying, unfortunately, but it's the only way to actually learn. And yeah, not learning and just looking everything up individually each time in short form content is a really good way to get hurt and just, yeah, not know anything. Walter says, silly putty gets rid of excess heat while soldering. You don't want that, though. One of the reasons that the thermally resistive putty is good is that it doesn't absorb heat. You don't when you're soldering, you want all the heat to be in the work. You don't want the heat to spread out. If the heat starts spreading out, then the work that you're doing is not going to get as hot as you need it to. You want to put all the heat into the work so that you can get the work done quickly and then get the heat off. If you have anything that's pulling the heat away, and you're always going to have things that pull the heat away, but you want to have the minimum number of those possible, you're going to have to stay on that pad longer, and that's going to increase the chances of you lifting that pad. The pads are actually just glued to the PCB. So you've got like the PCB, you've got the trace coming in, the trace goes to the pad. Well, I mean, so the trace and the pad are like together, but it's not very strong. The strength that keeps the pads on is an adhesive in between the pad and the PCB. And so the longer that you're and adhesive, it gets soft like pretty quickly, right? So the longer you have the heat on there, the softer and the less sticky that adhesive is going to get, and that's when you can potentially lift or rip off that pad. So yeah, one of the tricks to soldering is to not have things that pull the heat away. Basically, have few things that pull the heat away as possible. I remember when my dad was teaching me to solder, one of the things that blew my mind is that he told me that when you hold the wires, your fingers pull heat away. Um, when they start to pull a lot of heat away, you go ouch, and because your fingers get real hot. But like you know that your fingers pull the heat away because you feel it, right? Um, and so yeah, you don't want to, you want the heat to stay right in the work as much as possible. It's why this is why, like, when you solder to the ground battery pad on an ESC, it sucks because that ground uh, uh, battery pad is directly connected to the ground plane, which is like one big sheet of copper basically in the entire PCB. And so you put heat onto that pad, and that heat goes right into that ground plane. And so that's why it takes longer on that pad, because all of that heat is being absorbed into the ESC. And like sometimes you'll notice it, like if you're holding your ESC down with like your pinky or something, and like doing like the little, I don't know where I'm going with this. But if you're holding your ESC down with a finger and you're soldering on the ground battery pad, you will feel the entire ESC get really, really, really hot. And it's that heat moving around. Walter also says RC fighters have a big garbage bag. I don't know what that means. Curtis Hayes says you could also take props off and run all the motors to see if the LEDs are lighting up equally, since each LED is in the path of each wire. Are they really? I never noticed that. Interesting. So if there's only two wires hooked up to the LED race wire, I wish I hadn't soldered that motor all the way on. So if there's only two wires hooked up, it'll still light some of the LEDs up on the LED race wire. I did not know that. So I think what you're saying is that middle wire was completely disconnected. I didn't think it would work. I assumed that if one of the wires was completely disconnected, that the motor wouldn't spin at all. That is super interesting. If what Curtis is saying is true, then the LED race wires could actually become a troubleshooting device, right? That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I'm trying to think of how to test that. Next time I have to swap a motor, I'll leave one wire off and I'll see what happens. I think that's all I have to do to test it. Rocketech says, I guess I don't understand exactly how RaceWire makes for faster motor changes. You're still unscrewing the motor, reinstalling the new one, measuring and cutting, desoldering the wires. Basically, trying to solder it first and foremost, it prevents you from having to take the top plate off, which is amazing. Most frames, when you have the top plate on, you really don't have good access to the ESC motor wire pads, especially if you're running a 20x20 ESC. I'll see a lot of people still do it. Like they'll hold it sideways, and then they'll get in here with tweezers, and then they'll jab the tip of the soldering iron in there, and then they'll bridge two of the pads and light their house on fire. It prevents you from having to solder in here. And it allows you to just solder here, which is 1,000 times easier, and you're going to do much better quality work out here. I'm willing to swap a motor in the field with LED race wires. I'm not willing to do it soldering in here. It's a really good way to have shitty quality work and then either blow the ESC all the way up or yeah, just have a motor wire that falls off and you lose it. It's, you know, it's you're gonna do much better quality work, and it is certainly gonna be quicker because you're not gonna have to be all up inside that. You won't have to remove the top plate, right? And if you're gonna do that work on an ESC with the top plate on, you're not gonna get good quality results. It's just there's too much going on. You got to have the tweezers and the soldering iron, and it's just a nightmare. Can you get it done? Absolutely, but there's just absolutely no way that the quality of the work will be anywhere near as good as a nice little set of pads right on the end of the arm that you just boink, 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 done, away we go. So that's how. YouTube just did the thing, scrolling back up. There it is. 661 says recap. Recap what? Stars and Stripes Jacket says, where are you at with the 2S Walksnail bow? Super excited to see how it goes. We are going to work more on it on Whoop Wednesday, this Wednesday. I soldered the rest of the... I undid the two motor plugs that I put on there because I put them on there backwards like a dumbass. So I fixed that, and then I soldered the other two on the other side. And then I soldered up the Walksnail. I measured out the Walksnail wires to what I thought was perfect, and I changed my mind on the orientation of the Walksnail VTX, and I soldered it up, and I left the wires about 2 millimeters too short. And I got so frustrated because the wires are liquid electric taped to the Walksnail board. This is the blown up Walksnail board that I have. This fucking liquid electric tape is such a goddamn nightmare to get off of there. And so now on that other board, I have to. I have no choice because I cut the wires too short like a complete fucking amateur. And I haven't had it in me to go back to it, and I'm still just like so demoralized from that because like, yeah, that's just such a stupid rookie mistake, and like it just created like probably a full hour of work digging in there to get that liquid electric tape off. I also hate having to dig in there and get that liquid electric tape off because I scratch the PCB, and that's like never a good thing because the liquid electric tape, like it just doesn't come off in one piece. You got to get in there with like magnification and really fine tipped tweezers and just sit there and like scrape and scrape and scrape, and it's just murder. So yeah, I'll be doing that either tonight all night long, or tomorrow or Wednesday during the day, so that yeah, we can dive back into it on Wednesday night's live stream. So yeah, that sucks. But, you know, welcome to building FPV quads. It's gonna suck, but we all have to do it. So, you know. 6x1 says, did you see the video I tagged you on Discord about the Happy Model 80mm frame for 45mm props? I did. I'm not really all that interested because the 40mm props that we currently have available are awful. They're out of bounds. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's super annoying that that's the case because they definitely make a little bit more power than the 1.6-inch props, but the only rig that I would put on 45mm props is going to be a rig with an HD video system. And HD video systems are very susceptible to jello, and out of balance props create jello. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. But here we are again. FPV. County FPV says, I'm finally getting a 5-inch. That's what she said. What inexpensive recreational use only camera do you recommend? GoPro, Insta360, etc. I am still on team GoPro Session 5. And especially because, Jesus, is it obvious that I search for it often? Especially because they have come down. Whoa! What? What? They've come way down. Oh my God! I've had an eBay alert for Session 5s for about 4 years. So every night at 2 a.m. they send me every single new Hero 5 session that has popped up on eBay. I guess I've just been deleting the emails. Wow. So they ballooned up to over $200 for a long time. And that's way too much. They used to be $160 all day, and that's a pretty good deal. And then they went up over 200, and it was like, nah, fuck that. And then I don't know, a year ago they started to come down back below 200. I saw some at like 190. I have not seen them for 130, 130, 115. This is a ridiculously good deal. 114. Holy shit, dude. So the Session 5 is going to give you 4K 30 frames a second or 2.7K 60 frames a second, which for freestyle flying is totally fine. Freestyle flying is about what you're doing. It's not about image quality. And the image quality from this is plenty. Every single freestyle edit of mine that you've ever seen has been filmed on a Session 5. The magic of the Session 5 is how unbelievably durable they are. There has never been another camera that is even half as durable as this thing. It is just brilliant. The battery life is great. They're nice and light. I think they're like 80 grams or something. It's the right size, right? Like it's not this big ass brick on the front of your shit. It's like small. It fits the profile of the frames of these things. It's just, yeah, it's the best FPV camera that's ever been made. And anybody that doesn't agree with that is wrong. It doesn't have like the horrible fisheye, fishbowl bullshit that the DJI Action or whatever the hell it is camera has. It's just awesome. So yeah, for $130 or $115, absolute no-brainer. Hero Session all day. Hero Session 5 all day. Make sure it's not the Session 4. If you can get a Session 4, I mean, now that the Session 5s are up here for 115 and 130, if you can find a Session 4 for like $60, let's say, maybe $80 absolute max, that's a pretty good deal. The image quality is way worse on the Session 4, but it is just as durable, and the image quality is just barely good enough, I think. But man, the Session 5 is a huge improvement. I have edits on my channel with being flown with both. All of my normal freestyle edits are flown with the Session 5. And then I have a couple of edits specifically that say Session 4 on them. So you can watch it, and it's night and day. But if you can find one really cheap, it's awesome because you just beat the hell out of it. And it's like, whatever, I paid $60, I paid $80 for it. You know, I paid $130 and I dropped it 25 stories to the concrete and it imploded. That hurts a little bit more. So like, it's nice to have a Session 4 that you paid nothing for, because when you go to do something really stupid, that's the camera that you put on there. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, I don't really, especially at these prices, I cannot recommend any other camera. Um, the I was willing, luckily I didn't have to because I have a whole bunch of them. I have 5 of the damn things actually. Um, I was willing to pay $200 for a session 5. If I'd run out of session 5s, I would have paid $200 for it. Because at $200, I can crash it at least 2 times as much, realistically 3 or 4 times as much and as hard as any other camera out there. And so, like, you buy like a Runcam Orange 5. I hate to pick on this camera, but I broke 2 of them within like 3 crashes. You buy a Runcam Orange 5 for what, like $50, I think they are. And yeah, that's a great deal. But then for me, and I've heard other people that have had actually decent luck with them being somewhat durable. But for me, within 3 crashes, I broke 2 of the damn things. So that's now $100. I didn't pay for them, right? But if you had paid for them, that's $100, and you don't have a working camera. Now you got to buy another one. Now you're up to 150. Now you could have had a Hero 5, and it would have survived all of that punishment, right? Durability is a really, really, really big deal. If you can find something that's more money, but it's significantly more durable, you can have some. You can have something that's better quality and lasts you longer. Maybe it lasts you forever, right? Like, buying stuff that's cheap but like not durable is really tough because at some point it's going to break and then that money just is gone forever. So you got to be really careful with that. It's all good, believe me, I love looking for the magical stuff that is super inexpensive. But when you play that game and that thing breaks, you are assed out. And at that point, you either have to buy the good quality one that you should have bought in the first place, or you have to roll the dice again and buy the cheap thing again and hope to hell that it survives. And if it doesn't survive, you're double fucked, right? So it's really, really, really difficult. It's one of the most frustrating things in FPV because these goddamn manufacturers discontinue their products so frequently. And like by the time that any of us have figured out that something is durable, it's gone. And it's maddening. So yeah, one of my main recommendations in FPV is to put durability at the top of your list of priorities when you buy stuff. Unfortunately, that's hard as hell to do. Like, you got to find somebody that has flown that motor or ESC or flight controller for thousands of batteries to really know if it's durable. And then there's still no guarantee because the quality control sucks so bad. So you might get one that right out of the box blows up, or after 100 batteries it blows up. You guys know. It's really, really tough. But if you see, oh my God, if you see a couple of people talking about something being durable, and then you look at those people's channels and they actually fly, and they actually fly hard and they crash and stuff like that, right? Write that shit down in your notes. And then buy that thing, because that is finding something that's durable will save you more money than anything else. It is a big deal. And as a side effect, you'll be able to just fly comfortably, confidently, without having to worry about your shit catching on fire, falling out of the air, right? So durability is the most important thing, hands down. Denzel the Turtle says Fiverr is fun. It is indeed. Walter says, do you know a nurse? What? Walter, what are you saying, brother? Easy. This is a kid-friendly live stream. Don't say things like that. Beef FPV says, would putting a meter on the motor pads and checking for voltage while running up the motors in Betaflight have caught this? No, because running the motors up in Betaflight is going to kind of do the same thing as the multimeter, right? Like either the motor is going to spin all the way up or it's not, right? If the motor and the meter is going to tell you the same, right? The motor is kind of like the meter. Is going to serve the same purpose with what you're saying as the multimeter. And in this case it was super obvious, right? Like the motor was just twitching. What's really interesting is that this rig was flying totally fine until it wasn't. And I've seen this before. I've seen motor wires that have one strand left and the motor still runs fine. And the rig flies totally fine, which is completely insane. I think what's going on is that even though there's only one strand connected, I think the other strands are close enough that they're still conducting or whatever. So yeah. I mean, this rig flew at Patrick's and it was totally fine. Super weird, but like I said, I've seen that a bunch of times. It's wild. But yeah, I mean, your head's in the right place, Beef. But just if when you push the motor slider up in Betaflight, unfortunately, on everything but a tiny whoop, you have to do that with the props off. And so even at 100% in Betaflight, it's really not putting that much of a load on the electrical system, right? But it's putting some juice through the wires when you do that. So that is a good test. I talk about it all the time. Like one of the best health tests that you can do on a quad is to plug it into Betaflight and run the motors up and just look at the RPM. And I mean, you don't really even have to look at the RPM. You can just fucking hear it. Like if you have a motor or an ESC channel that's on its way out, you'll spin one motor up, it'll go wah. You spin the next motor up, it'll go wah. Third motor will go wah. Like you'll just hear it. It won't wind all the way up. You can also do this in turtle mode. When you have a really hard hit, or just when you want to check to make sure the rig is healthy, or when the rig is acting weird, go into turtle mode and just real quick go up into the diagonals and fire. And you can do this with the props on. This is one of the best things you can do. And so you can check each motor, wah, 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 and you'll hear it. You'll very it's very easy to hear the RPM that the motors are turning. And so yeah, this is it's always weird when motor wires fail like this, because you would think that it would be super obvious and that like only having one strand or two strands of wire connected, it would fly like absolute ass, but magically it doesn't. Which really kind of speaks to the fact that the motor wires are not a bottleneck, right? Like if the motor wires were a bottleneck and you started having individual strands break, you would know it, right? It would be immediately obvious. The rig would have way less power because the PID loop would be pulling the other three motors down. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like you think about, we get prop strikes, we get all kinds of abuse into the motor wires. It makes a lot of sense that the manufacturers would put motor wires on there that are bigger than they need to be. So that's good that they kind of do that for us. Focus for Life says, do you have a 5-inch build list for freestyle, budget between $200 and $300? I do not. Build lists are incredibly difficult because of how often the manufacturers discontinue products. There's not a single thing in this build that is currently sold. That's not true. The Crossfire Nano, is the only thing, well, and the antenna, is the only thing in this build that you can buy. I mean, this build is like 3-ish years old. But I do, when I find something that's actually decent quality, I buy a whole shitload of them, because I know that they're going to get discontinued. And at any given time, I feel like we only have like one or two things that are actually reliable. So if I ever find something that's reliable, I go all in and spend like, $100, $200 on it. And then, it's not money wasted because it's money that I wouldn't have to spend in the future. And that has, so this will piss everybody off. These Aikon ESCs that I've had running in all of my 5-inch freestyle rigs for the last 3, maybe 4 years. I think I paid $30 per for them. There was a big Christmas, Black Friday, whatever sale one year, and it was right when I'd figured out that these ESCs are bulletproof, and I want to say I bought 12 of the damn things. And so I've been running ESCs forever now that have cost me $30 each that are, and I haven't like I've gone through them, but it's because I put a whole bunch of them into freestyle builds. I gave a couple of them away to people to say like, hey, look, this is indestructible. You should try it and run it. And yeah, I have a lot of builds that are on them. Like I think that's on it. That's on it. That's on one. This is on one. The build on the floor is on one. I've got the 3 glides that I built to sell that I still haven't finished. They all have them. So yeah, it's yeah, I don't at the moment. I think the build is whatever frame you want. Frame is a very personal choice. The Speedy Bee stack seems to be like the way to go. Motors are a pretty personal choice, and the motors are. I mean, see, this is the other thing too. Like my build, you're not gonna like it. Like the reason why on my Fiverr page I offer build planning is that copying someone on the internet's build is a terrible idea unless you're the exact same person as them, which you're not. You're in a different state, you fly different places, you have a different flight style, you have different tastes, you have a different budget. You probably don't have sponsors. They do have sponsors a lot of times, so they're getting some stuff for free, right? And so, like I said earlier in the stream, like if you're gonna do a custom build versus a bind and fly, you're gonna pay more money. Custom builds literally cost you more money, and they cost you a ton more time, right? You're gonna spend 6 to 10 hours on that build. So the only reason to do a custom build, because you're gonna spend more time and money, is if you're gonna do that build specifically for you, the exact right motors for you, the exact right frame for you, the exact right stack for your budget, the exact right video system, the exact right propellers, right? All top to bottom. Because then your build is perfect for your flight style, for how you crash, for how hard you crash, for what you crash into, for what you fly around, for how big your spots are that you fly, yada, 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 yada. And so someone else's build is not going to do that for you. And so, yeah, that's why I absolutely love spending a half an hour or an hour with people where they come to me and say, hey, I'm doing a build and I want it to be perfect for me. And I've got this big ass list of questions that I asked you, and we go through all these questions. Who's your favorite pilot? Where do you fly? How often do you fly? A big old list. And the answers to each one of those questions clue me in. Okay, his favorite pilot is Mr. Steele. Okay, cool. So we want something that's lightweight, that's going to be super snappy. All right, great. He flies in fields with grass and trees only. Okay, we don't need a basher frame because we're not going to be smacking concrete. All right, great. What camera do you want to run? Oh, the brand new GoPro Hero 12. Oh, that's a big fat ass camera. Okay, we need 2207 higher kV motors because we're going to need the power. When you fly, what do you like to do? Do you like to stay low to the ground and super proximity close to stuff? Or do you like to hammer it up into the clouds all the time? Hammer it up into the clouds all the time? Perfect. Great. We already wanted to do big nasty motors, right? And so just boom, 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 all the way down. And this way you end up building something that's specifically for you. And so, yeah, stay away from these build lists because either the build lists are... A lot of times the build lists, because it gets lots of clicks, are just what's the cheapest ESC that there is, what's the cheapest set of motors that there are, what's the cheapest frame that there is. And a lot of times the cheapest stuff is garbage. And when you put all the garbage in, it either catches on fire or it falls out of the air. If it falls out of the air in somewhere that's unrecoverable, you just completely wasted all of that money and you have to start all over from scratch. If you'd spent $10 more on an ESC, you wouldn't have lost a $300 rig and you'd be way ahead of the game, right? So be super careful about like build lists. Because if that pilot has taken the time and effort to figure out what all their favorite parts are, they're a different person than you, and so that, you know, the way that their rig flies and crashes and performs and is, you know, serviceable is going to be totally different than you. But also, a lot of times it's just the cheapest shit out there, and that's not a good idea, right? We don't want to hurt someone, especially with a 5-inch rig. We don't want to hurt someone. Really don't want to kill someone either, right? Like I'm not totally convinced that a 5-inch rig at full throttle to someone's face won't kill them. And so there's stakes here, right? So, you know, doing the cheapest possible build, which is what a lot of these build lists are, to me is pretty reckless. But hey, YOLO, bitches, fuck everyone but myself. Don't be like that. I'm not saying that you're like that, but Focus for Life also says analog video. I actually don't know of any analog VTXs at the moment that are half decent. I do know that the Rush 20x20, stay away from. I've had 3 of them that have been, all 3 of them just awful. Yeah, I don't know of any analog VTXs at the moment that are good. When I realized that the Immersion RC Tramp VTX was like awesome, I bought a whole shitload of them. And all of my analog 5-inch rigs are on those, and I still have like 6 extras. So yeah, it's tough right now. But the SpeedyB stack, I've heard from so many people, is incredible, and it's just so cheap. So I think I can confidently recommend that stack for you. And then, yeah, I mean, a lot of the other stuff is, like I said, super personal preference. Frame is very personal preference. Motors are super personal preference. Props, same deal. Video system, right? So, yeah, do the research. Do way more research than you think you need to. Try to find... One of the things you can do is try to find pilots that fly similar to the way that you want to fly, and then pay attention to where they fly. It's really hard because most pilots edit out their crashes, so you don't really usually get to see how often or how hard they crash. So that's really, really, really tough. All you're gonna really be able to go by is like where they fly. So if you see them flying, like if all of your spots are grass and trees, and you see them flying around grass and trees all the time, that's a good sign. You know, hopefully they're paying attention and they're not just like sponsored, just throwing more and more and more parts at it. You know, the more subscribers, the